Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. Kevin Gilbert video number, I guess we're counting, number 7. And it was number 8, I believe I got in the whole chronology of the way I'm doing this, counting when I got. So after this I only have 2 more. But it's going to be the double release. I mean, you could look at these as separate releases, I guess, but from 2009, Nuts and Bolts. Here are your track lists. Leave that there for Nuts, and your track list for Bolts. And the inserts, well, we don't have lyrics, unfortunately. We have a write-up from Cintra Wilson, Kevin's. I think she was his last girlfriend. She was, I remember she referenced Transmetropolitan in this. She used the term Kevin was a white-hot genius, and he spoke for those who weren't able to be spoken for. You look at the credits: Nick DiVirgilio, Corky James, Russ Parrish. A lot of these songs. Toast Panos played drums, and Dave Kersner, of course. I can't remember if the write-up. No, the second, it is Cintra Wilson again. So it's like, in Spider Jerusalem, in Bolts, she mentions him in there. Of course, we get glare. I'm trying to avoid the glare. Anyway. So I guess Nuts and Bolts, well, it is sort of archival, and it's a compilation of sorts. They're compilations of sorts. This is a lot of significance with these 2 releases, and when I chose, and I guess if I'm still looking back at historically and trying to do the albums of the year, did the albums of the year and like songs of the year now from 2009, this is still my favorite release of sorts, and it was really significant in that this is the first new or unreleased music that Kevin's estate released, really since. For me, after I became a fan. So that's why that was part of the reason why this was so significant. Yes, okay, so they're compilations, and there's a lot of songs, as we came to learn, were on other releases, on other arrangements, of course, which, now it's like inevitable. I'm going to end up making a full video of, I'll go through the whole collection and just say this song was on here, here, and here. But there's still a lot of music on both these compilations, or both these discs, these releases, or call it one release, Nuts/Bolts, that had never been released, or I had never heard, of course. I know when it came out, I ended up listening and preferring Nuts if I'm choosing between the 2. Not by a lot, but I think the Nuts is more. It's more rock, or you could call it pop. Bolts was more like stripped down singer-songwriter, I guess, in some ways. I mean, that was the big thing, is when I got into Kevin Gilbert's music and seeing comments and interacting with some of the fans of his music. Specifically, I think it was among the Dream Theater fans on the Mike Portnoy forum. At least 1 or 2 people chimed in talking about how they were frustrated with, could have been on Progressive Ears too, they were frustrated with the estate because they knew there was all this music that hadn't been released that was recorded, and they refer to the 2 or 3 albums worth of singer-songwriter albums. Now you look at it now, some 10, 15 years later, it wasn't just 2 or 3, it was, I'm trying to avoid the glare here. It was more like, I mean, I guess you could say, well, Call Me Kind, I'll get to Call Me Kind, that video, or those videos. Those were singer-songwriter albums in a way, too. But, so just like going over it, so like Nuts, there's 11 tracks on this. There's a grand total of 22 songs, which, again, is a fraction of Call Me Kai at this point, if you look at that. And this was music probably mostly recorded, it was definitely after like N.R.G, the Call Me Kai stuff, and Giraffe, I would guess. I think a lot of this stuff was recorded probably even around the time or post Toy Matinee, A lot of it is around the Thud period, and I know there may be some songs that end up on the Thud, anniversary, 3 discs, but some of them didn't. But like I was listening to today, the Joytown, the acoustic version of Joytown. It's really weird. The way Kevin is singing on that, I didn't notice this before. It reminds me a lot of this last track on The Shaming of True, Johnny's last song. But no, so just like going through highlights, of course. My favorites definitely are Finally Over You, which is really at this point the one specific track song recording that my wife actually likes from Kevin Gilbert. And it's a power pop gem. I mean, it is. And I was thinking about this today about Kevin sort of as a power pop and pop songwriter. He never really wanted to do pop music. The way he even sarcastically made a comment about the Rubinoos, which were bubblegum, stripped down bubblegum pop or whatever, which of course John Rubin now runs his estate, and he did work with them. But it's like Casey Crescenzo's the same way. There's definitely a bunch of different musicians who are progressive, the progressive pop you could call them, I guess, that while they don't like to write, they don't want to like start writing pop songs because for the sake of they feel like they're compromising their artistic integrity and, showing what kind of musician they can be. But the truth is actually a lot of people that love the music they write that are pop songs, and they're really good at writing pop songs at times. And Kevin is no exception. I don't know why it is. It's like progressive rock musicians writing pop songs. That's it's a formula that when it works, I'm totally a fan of because it's like the DNA of my tastes kind of colliding and working in harmony, I guess you could say, and in melody. No pun intended. But, it's a terrific sort of power pop, fun, playful, catchy tune. Tired Old Man, of course, this is the sort of abridged version of it, but it's still fantastic. Love that track. And I made a comment on the Giraffe video. I was talking about Air Dance and thinking it was compared to Genesis a little bit, but I was thinking of A Tired Old Man reminds me of the song Undertow from Genesis. Undertow or Ripples, maybe Ripples even more so, but it's like Kevin loved the Peter Gabriel Genesis, but it's amazing how much some of his music ends up sounding like the Phil Collins Genesis. But yeah, just going through the rest. Childhood Ends is a terrific song. It has nothing to do with the Marillion song. And there's some other band that has it. Oh, and Pink Floyd. So you have 3 of my favorite artists of all time all having a song of the same name, having nothing to do with each other. But that's an epic track, though. I know Dick Virgilio once covered that live. The World Just Gets Smaller While Heroes Cry. World Just Gets Smaller was a song done by Giraffe. I'll talk about that when I get to the Power of Suggestion. But this is a much different version. It's got more punch, it's more layered, the production is just better, and the vocal arrangement and vocal performance I like more. But I still like the Giraffe version. When Strangers Part, as I learned, that's a song that was on, I want to say one of the Call Me Kai records. But Shannon Elizabeth also. Circling Winds might have been as well. I mean, a lot of these songs were just like newer versions of some of the songs on Call Me Kai, as it turns out, some of the Call Me Kai records. And you do get the Kashmir, the studio version, which, of course, wasn't that easily found because it was only on that specific version of Thud. But at that point, now it's also it got put on covers, of course. So now it's not as rare, but. Yeah, but While Heroes Cry is another track I really like. I mean, this whole record is filled with songs that are, I enjoy. Oh, and Until I Get Her Back, I forgot about that. And there's a different version of that, I believe, on N.R.G. It's either N.R.G. or one of the Call Me Kai records, but I like this one more. And this one also has a power pop element to it. It sounds a little bit like Goodbye L.A., which I'll talk about again. And I'm trying to talk about too much Call Me Kai stuff, but... So Bolts, the other, like I said, more acoustic, has some, of course they just released the Best of Everything. It's got this, which I probably think of this Bolts probably for that song more than anything else. It's a terrific sort of almost Sinatra retro sounding piano ballad. I would say the same thing to an extent for God's Been Tapping My Phone, and that one also was on one of the Call Me Kai records. But this one's better. I like the arrangement more on it. It's kind of epic. It's sympathetic. It's about a guy kind of, God can hear him, and he's not having success with women. It talks about some women's relationships and stuff. And then Something Nice for My Dog is another acoustic track, which it's a little more. It's a little odd, but it's like referring to a name of someone. I can't remember who it is. I'll have to listen to it. I forget the name of that it's referring to. But I'd have to pull the lyrics up, and I can't do that right now. It's referring to the dog itself, It's like, you want to get something nice for my dog. I don't know. That's like a relationship thing. I have this dog. You're dating someone. They buy you something for the dog, like a toy or a treat or like a piece of like a sweater or something like that. I don't know. But maybe it's also a metaphor in some ways. But yeah, Waking the Sun, the acoustic version of Goodness Gracious, that's good. It's a little different. Obviously, it's acoustic, so it's more stripped down. And he did that. The acoustic version of Joytown. You think, they still are done, but these were done right in the age of like the MTV Unplugged kind of stuff. So maybe that it's like, well, I want to do an acoustic version of that song. So what's your Souvenirs? Another one. It's a slower piece. Taxi Ride is a Jane Seabury song, which that is also on covers, I believe, as well. So I was like, I listened to that recently. I just listened to that a few weeks back. But Lonely Road, the one that follows that, is awesome though. I remember that was one of my favorite tracks on this part of the release, this on Bolts when it came out. So, but it's another piano ballad. Kind of slow, talking about you don't want to take a ride alone. It's sympathetic, and you think about Kevin's life and toward the end of his life, what he had been through. Some of this stuff is, even Taxi Ride to an extent, even though Taxi Ride wasn't his. These are like melancholy piano ballad kind of things. Some of that showed up on The Shaming of the True, and it points on Thud, but some of his best piano ballads were in this collection, actually. So, and then of course it's got the song Finale, which I swear that was on another release that I wasn't able to track down. There's a song called Finale at the end of The Power of Suggestion, but that one says roll credits. That one doesn't have any vocals, I don't believe, because I was listening to some of it earlier. So maybe I'm thinking of this version. Of course, he talks about the finale in All Fall Down on Thud. And he also mentions that, I think, on Welcome Home, I don't know. Anyways, it's weird with so many songs that he used and redid, used phrases and stuff like that. That's why I need to make that list. To memorize it all can be a little bit daunting, even as much as I love his music. So, but yeah, that's kind of the gist of this collection of songs, unreleased songs at the time. I was going to look at Bolts to see at some of the credits, but John Cuniberti, liner notes, yes. Hugh Brown did the artwork. I actually was going to show the CDs too. The truth is, it's kind of, for better or for worse, I haven't listened to these that much since 2009. I thought that I'd be listening to them frequently, but that's why I kind of thought, well, I'll be listening to these more than some of the albums that were above it, but yes and no, These like one of those shots you those like little movie boosts, That was from that. But I just in revisiting, it was a reminder how, and I think that's from the Kashmir EP. That's how you'd be able to hear Kashmir, of course, that or the version that came with Thud, but. Yeah, I think this is an excellent collection that if I'm going through Kevin's music, it's worth not to ignore. But I guess who knows? I was thinking that a lot of this stuff probably could have ended up on the record that would have followed Thud. Not Shaming. It wouldn't have been it would have just been a collection of songs. A song like Finally Over You. if he really so desired, maybe he was working with the Rubenus when he wrote that. Can't remember, but it, this is sort of, it sounds like, a lot of it sounds like a transition or a follow up to Thud in a lot of ways. I don't know if he would have released one record that was among a lot of the stuff in here and maybe some other stuff, if like Big Heart or whatever, if it would have ended up better than Thud. I'm not sure. I'm kind of skeptical on that, but knowing Kevin, who knows? Then again, in that headspace, he was also working with Caviar, so he was kind of going in a bunch of different areas. Who knows? This might have been the way it would have. I don't know if he would have called it Nuts and Bolts, but it would have just been exactly like these. So, but anyway, that's about it. Like I said, that's about it for Nuts and Bolts. I got 2 more of these, and then the ranking video, and then I don't know. Maybe that's what I'll do after that. The ranking, I'll try to invest some time. I would like to do a review on his live records, which there aren't a lot of them, unfortunately, but I could go into more in detail about the... I mean, the thing is, I'll confess something, among the fan base, there was a lot of these recordings that were available at one point in... I don't know when it started, it was in the early 2000s, and among the stuff that was made available, a lot of that was the Call Me Kai stuff and some of the Nuts and Bolts stuff, but a lot of it was live stuff. I don't know if that's my also curiosity. What is the estate going to release after they do the Shame of the True vinyl box set? Assuming that's going to happen still, of course. The live recordings would be potentially a good place to also look at releases for Kevin Gilbert's estate, because I don't know how many there were in there. I mean, I still have them. There's probably half a dozen, maybe 20 or more recordings, mostly from the Thud period, but he didn't have a lot of live releases. Of course, the Giraffe box set came with the DVD that had Giraffe live, but I mean, what about some other the Thud period live? What about maybe there's more Giraffe stuff live? Maybe there's some other. I don't know. I know there were a lot of Thud tour. There could be like a Thud other than the Troubadour, so that's the one thought I had about doing the Kevin Gilbert video series. Won't be ending after I do the ranking and do the song comparisons. So, but again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.